A little over a week ago I kissed the top of our 7.5 weeks old baby's head. It was a single, light kiss and she had a thick head of hair with no obvious scratches or other skin imperfections. But I had cold sores on my lips at the time. We have been really careful to avoid giving our children cold sores or otherwise pass along the herpes virus, HSV-1. We have maintained a strict no kissing on the lips or face rule between everyone and our children, and I do not kiss my wife on the lips or other regions while I have cold sores. But just a few hours ago our 7.5 weeks old baby was diagnosed with HSV-1. She developed sores starting from where I kissed the top of her head within 24 to 48 hours of the kiss. We weren't sure what the sores were initially, so we brought her to a walk-in medical clinic for assessment. They took a swab sample for testing and provided a prescription for topical, skin-applied, antibiotics while suggesting the sores could be due to a bacterial infection. But after 48 hours the sores were continuing to grow and spread across the top of her head. So we phoned the clinic and our family doctor, but they still had no test results. They then provided a prescription for oral antibiotics. But after 24 hours the sores were continuing to grow and were now across her forehead. We still had no test results, so my wife took her to our family doctor. But our family doctor did not know the cause of the sores either and suggested we take her to the Children's Hospital Emergency. We took our baby to Children's Emergency that evening. They took a look at the sores and listened to our concerns. They also took swab, blood and urine samples to try to determine the cause of the sores, bacterial or viral, and to determine if it had spread to other organs or systems. They tried to take a sample near the spinal cord as well, to check if it was in her central nervous system, but they were unable to collect what they needed due to her small size, 10 pounds, and movement during their attempts. While waiting for the results from the hospital, we were informed that the test results from the walk-in clinic showed only a culture of normal skin bacteria. But the hospital staff told this could be due to them collecting the sample from the surface and not opening up the sore to collect. She was admitted to hospital and started on 4 antiviral and antibiotic medication. After spending 48 hours in the hospital we were informed that she has contracted HSV-1 and that the sores may reoccur in the same region it started originally, top of head, or around the mouth. Different infectious disease doctors gave varying options on where the sores may appear in the future. They told us that she will need at least a week of 4 antiviral as she is too young to take oral antiviral. My mom was infected with HSV-1 when she was in grade 6, likely from her dad, and was hospitalized for a month. Apparently they thought at the time that she would die from it due to the severity of the response. And my older brother and I both were infected with HSV-1 around that same age or younger from our mom, but we have had only recurring cold sores with no other major symptoms. I seem to get cold sores almost exclusively when I have a lack of sleep and thus put stress on the body, leading to a compromised immune system. Now our little girl has them despite our best efforts, and it breaks my heart. We are concerned about it now being easier to spread to our other children, and the possibility of it spreading my wife's breasts, which would affect her ability to breastfeed. Especially concerning if we have more children in the future. And I have found cold sores to be a cause of physical, emotional and social discomfort in my own life, so I am very sorry to have passed it along to my daughter. I had no idea that HSV-1 could be spread through contact with skin. Growing up I only heard of it being through mucous membranes, lip-to-lip kissing, sharing cups and utensils, etc., and a few years ago I read that it could spread to breasts or genitals despite not being HSV-2, genital herpes. Looking it up online now, I am seeing that they suggest not kissing babies under 28 days to avoid causing neonatal herpes. But what I was reading did not make it clear that kissing any part of the baby could spread the virus. The doctor stated it is possible to spread through kissing the top of her head, but prior to diagnosis said he would be surprised if it was HSV-1 because she was not under 28 days, she was 6.5 weeks at time of kiss. She was full term, healthy weight with no complications during pregnancy or postpartum. According to the info I found online, herpes on an infant or child can have life-changing consequences aside from the sores, such as blindness and brain damage, and can often be fatal. Apparently the majority of the general population likely has herpes, but a lot of people are asymptomatic, i.e. have never had any cold sores. And herpes can be spread within the body or to others whether or not there are sores present at the time, although it makes it more likely to spread to others if there are sores. My wife informed of a case. There is at least one article online from 2008 regarding it, where herpes had spread to an infant and they were hospitalized. But a week after the infant's sores were no longer present, the baby died due to the virus spreading within the body. So I am sitting here in the hospital full of regret over that single kiss, and hoping that she is able to make a full recovery. But I am glad that she did develop visible sores and that I suggested along the way that the sores could be due to herpes, because they were able to diagnose and treat the virus relatively early, which may have prevented it from spreading to other regions of the body. I am also glad that our baby was healthy on, seemingly all account prior to this incident, because it would likely affect her worse had there been other compromising factors. And I am hopeful that effective and safe therapeutic and preventative vaccines for the virus will be developed in the near future. I do not want to cause unnecessary or excessive fear among others, but I want to share my experience and raise awareness of the risk. I wish I knew what I do now a couple of weeks ago. I would take back that kiss in a heartbeat. Edit number 1. I would like to thank those who have shared their support, information and experiences. I appreciate your kind, constructive words and I hope you are doing well. Smile. I would like to point out the following regarding this post. I am not a medical professional. My username was the first randomly offered username by Reddit and I didn't care to change it at that time. I did not mean to suggest that I am a paramedic. What I am and have been explaining is my current understanding based on my own research and experience and those of others who have shared. Patches and medication may be available to you which can decrease the risk of spreading the virus or showing physical symptoms. It would probably be a good idea to talk to your doctor if having herpes causes you to have sores or seek therapy if it causes you depression. If you are reading this at this point in time, chances are you carry the virus too according to some estimates/research. You often need to be tested specifically for HSV-1 to know whether or not you are a carrier due to the majority of people, babies and adults, being asymptomatic, never experiencing sores. Having sores puts you at a greater risk of transmitting the virus to other people or having it spread to other locations on the body, but a lack of sores does not make those events impossible. And its spreading within the body is common for infants especially when left untreated and can often be fatal. One estimate shows a 25% death rate estimated for the United States currently even with treatment, or cause disabilities if it spreads to other organs or the central nervous system. Infants may experience symptoms such as lethargy, exceptionally sleepy or fatigued and sluggish, difficulty breathing, irritability, high or low body temperature, having a larger abdomen size than normal, or seizures when infected with the virus. If an infant experiences these symptoms or what appear to be herpes sores are present, you should contact your doctor or seek emergency services immediately. The virus can be spread through contact with skin on any part of the body, although infection is much more likely to infants, areas with damaged skin or open wounds, and mucous membrane areas, i.e. lips, mouths, breasts, genitals, eyes, noses and ears. The virus can transfer to others without a person touching them directly. Sharing food, drinks, utensils, or otherwise contacting an infected area can transfer the virus. Once infected, the HSV-1 virus remains within the body for life. This may or may not be true for all forms of herpes. Stigma surrounding herpes and its transmission is preventing honest and open transfer of information on the topic. Showing affection for those you love is natural and needed, but should be done in a manner that does not put yourself or them at an increased risk of negative consequences. I kissed my daughter on the hair at the top of her head. She was born with a full head of hair which is still there and she did not have any obvious damage to the skin at that area. I deeply regret kissing my daughter when, as a baby, and where, semi-exposed skin, I did, but I did not know that transmission through skin on any part of the body was possible. My understanding at the time was that active HSV-1 sores can transfer to others when the virus touches lips, breasts or genitals only. I would like to add the following points for added clarity/context. Edit number 2. I do intend on discussing management of the virus with my doctor so on to see what methods may be available, safe, and effective for me in my efforts to reduce the risk of spreading the virus. My mom kissed us on the lips frequently growing up. We would kiss her lips and share drinks with her as long as she did not have an active sore. When I was 14 years old or so I told her I did not want to kiss her on the lips anymore. She expressed her sadness regarding these wishes and said that I must not love her anymore. I do not know exactly when or how I was infected. Cold sores were sort of accepted as being normal within my family, despite my mom's extreme reaction to the virus as an older child. And until recently we had other family members insist that kissing children and babies, including on the lips, is normal and needed and that it isn't a big deal to spread cold sores. When I say that the virus spread despite our best efforts, I do not mean to say that we did everything we could have and should have done. What I mean to say is that we were actively trying to stop the spread of the virus given what we had known at the time. Myself and my wife have done some of our own research regarding the virus at different points in our lives, yet we still did not know what we do now. If the results of my actions which I have shared here is expected to you given the circumstances, I am glad. But my target audience with this post is people who may not have expected what we have experienced. Oop, thank you. My mom did mention she takes similar before and suggested it when I let her what happened. I wish I had done so before this. But I plan on seeing my doctor ASAP to discuss and see what the options are. Update 1. I shared my story here about 10 months ago. I wrote the story in the hospital the morning after our daughter was diagnosed with HSV-1 and while waiting for my wife to wake up. To summarize, I kissed the top of our 6.5-week-old baby on the top of her skull while I had a cold sore and it resulted in her being infected with herpes, HSV-1/the cold sore virus. I did not know that infection could occur through regular skin. Growing up I was only taught that it could spread through contact with the mouth or lips, and I only learned about infection being possible to genitals or breasts as an adult. Prior to the kiss, I think I may also have been unaware about the seriousness of infections to babies and was trying to prevent its spread to our children solely based on the discomfort and embarrassment I endured in my own life as a result of developing cold sores. Our daughter was provided with 4 antiviral treatment for 1 week in the hospital before we were discharged. We were given a prescription for 1 week's worth of oral antiviral medication to be taken from home, and had a follow-up appointment with the infectious disease doctor around a week after discharge. Although they were unable to take a sample of spinal fluid to check if HSV had spread to our daughter's central nervous system, they thought that the virus was likely only skin deep in her case. And we were told that we would need to come back to the children's hospital immediately if the sores presented themselves again, I assume at least until she is 1 or 2 years old. Our daughter has had 1 or 2 outbreaks of HSV-1 since we initially left the hospital. The first of those outbreaks was around 3 weeks after leaving the hospital and resulted in a hospital stay overnight, followed by about 2 months of oral antivirals to be provided from home. And the other time was around 1 month after using up the antivirals from the previous outbreak, but the sore went away on its own within 24 hours. We were going to pick up antivirals for the last time, but all pharmacies were closed, so we decided to wait until the morning, but the sore was almost fully gone by the morning. Both recurrences showed up at the same location as the initial sore and kiss, top of skull. My wife met with an infectious disease doctor in February to discuss her daughter's case, and the doctor said that our baby got really lucky. There are limited treatment options and our baby case was very minor compared to most. She seems to be a very happy and healthy baby. In my opinion, since she was about midway through her stay in the hospital, she seemed to be in a happier place and is still there as long as she isn't wanting to be held or nursed by her mom. My wife and I both agree that she has been the happiest of our babies. And she is just about to celebrate her first birthday. I have posted this story to a number of different subreddits to try to raise awareness, especially for parents or soon-to-be parents. Many users have expressed gratitude for the posts because they were unaware regarding the dangers of HSV or how infectious it is. So I am glad to have possibly helped prevent some similar or worse cases from occurring. A user also commented fairly recently on an older post of mine suggesting that I share it over and over because they think the information is valuable. So I thought I should do an update post here to help spread the info some more and give an update to anyone who saw my earlier post. /Sudash, my heart weeps with yours. I had a couple of miscarriages, but nothing as traumatic as a birth like yours that ended so sadly, and I still cry. Oop, I am very sorry to hear your story. But thank you for sharing, and I hope you and your family are doing okay. I appreciate the support. I hope I do not make too many mistakes or ones that are too big, but mistakes are definitely bound to happen. I do hope to make my family proud and want to keep them as happy as I can. Oop, I'm happy to help. And for sure, the shaming and stigma are also certainly a large part of the reason why it isn't talked about more. A student nurse at the hospital who helped our baby said that they are taught this info about HSV in their courses, but he mentioned stigma specifically when explaining why the general public is not being informed. Oop, eventual exposure is one thing, but I would argue that it definitely should be discussed more than it is. Exposure to babies is very serious. Neonatal herpes has about an 85% fatality rate when left untreated, and even with treatment there is currently around a 25% fatality rate in America. It can also cause blindness, brain damage, or other disabilities. My wife also sent me a study a few months ago that showed that HSV is the root cause of some cases of SIDS. We went through the public school system, took pre-delivery courses, had regular doctor visits during and after pregnancy, had 3 hospital births, read the booklet provided at the hospital, and regularly attended a baby group post-delivery. But no one or nothing mentioned HSV at all. Expect maybe the hour or 2 sex ed course they give you in school and just say to wear a condom. Now on to next story. Daughter called my husband by his first name, and now he is upset and distant after she chose someone else to walk her down the aisle at her wedding. I, F46, got pregnant with my daughter Sarah, F26, when I was in college. My parents and my then boyfriend's parents pushed us to marry, which we did. My late husband unfortunately passed away a week after our daughter's 2nd birthday because of a heart complication that we did not even know he had. It was a very hard time for me and I went through a very bad depression. 4 years later, I met my now husband Robert, M46, on a blind date set up by a friend. He was one of my best friend's cousin. We hit it off and got married a year later. Even when we were dating, he was very hands-on with my daughter, and it did not take too long for my daughter to call him Papa. Even until we got married and when I got pregnant 2 years into the marriage and gave birth to twins, M17 and F17, he still acted like a father to Sarah. She was even included in my husband's family reunions, and the cousin group photo shoot, that my in-laws organize every Christmas. Things took a bit of a turn when Sarah turned 18. She started calling him by his first name and both Robert and I were taken aback with the change of attitude she was displaying. I asked Robert what was that about, but he only shrugged, not knowing the reason too. I thought things would go back to normal, but she has been consistent in calling him by his first name, so I asked her if we could talk. Robert asked if he could join, which Sarah agreed. To make it short, my daughter overheard my husband talking about a Father's Day trip to his friend who owns an hostel. His friend asked him if he forgot to include Sarah since my husband only asked him to prepare 3 bedrooms. My husband replied that he planned this trip for his real children only. It wouldn't make sense if Sarah was in the trip since he wasn't her real father. This made Sarah feel betrayed and hurt because she saw him as her real dad even if she knew he was her stepdad. My husband tried to explain to her that though he loves her as a father, his love for the twins were different since they were his real children. I wanted to just shut him up because he was overusing the word real. But Sarah told us to leave her room. What made that day even more depressing was that this day was her last week with us before she leaves the country for college. Since then, every time she comes home, Sarah acts like nothing happened but continues to call Robert by his first name. Robert didn't want to add fuel to the fire and just tolerated it. And now, few years since then, my daughter announced her engagement to her longtime boyfriend. We were very happy for her as they have been dating since they were still college freshmen. 2 weeks before their wedding, we were wondering who would be walking Sarah down the aisle. I assumed it would be Robert since I thought we have moved past that incident, but no. My daughter scoffed at me when I told her about Robert walking her down the aisle. She said I thought it was obvious that Uncle Greg, my late husband's brother, would be the one to do that. Besides, I'm not his real daughter. It wouldn't make sense if he walked me down the aisle. I did not talk back, instead apologized for my ignorance and told her that I'll speak with Robert about it, since he also assumed he'd be the one to walk her down the aisle. When I told him what Sarah said, he was pissed. But I politely reminded him of the incident years ago, which made him even more upset. He said that it was long time ago and that Sarah should move on. I, who was offended for my daughter, told him that he shouldn't be upset since he doesn't see her as his real child anyway. He then got teary-eyed and told me to not speak to him. He still attended Sarah's wedding but looked visibly down. We still aren't on good terms and have been pretending in front of relatives. My daughter does not know about this and I want to keep it that way. But nevertheless, it's been a week since my daughter's wedding and Robert is still upset. He only talks to me about the twins and household stuff, but beyond that, he keeps everything to himself. I feel really bad and think he is acting this way because of me. So, without being said, Ida? Update 1. Hi guys. I'm Sarah. This is not my Reddit account. It's my cousin's, biofather's side. I apologize for any grammar mistakes and spelling errors. My cousin sent me this post, while my husband and I were packing some stuff for our honeymoon earlier, and she thought it was my mom. My cousin is one of my go-to people, so she knows every single drama in my life. We are really tight. I was skeptical at first since I would never have thought of my mother using Reddit. It's just too random. Until I read the overheard part of the post, it just brought back very good memories, hee hee hee. On top of that, I noticed that the fake names used are based on the first letter of our real names. It gave me the confirm it, ion that this is my mom. I just want to say that I don't appreciate that some of you are calling my mom an a-hole. But I also don't think it's your fault since mom left a lot of details. After I left for college in the States, a lot of things happened. My cousin, the owner of this account, was the one filling me up with updates. So, mom and Robert had a huge fight regarding me. Plus, Robert always came home late and drunk from the cockpit. The twins, well, they were shielded from the drama because they were children. They kind of separated for like a year. My mom went to live with her parents. I was always in contact with mom, and she always asked for my whereabouts. You know, normal mom stuff. She also kind of filled me in about her separation from Robert. I actually felt guilty because I knew it was because of me. Their biggest fight was when Uncle Greg, I will be using the fake names mom used to not add confusion, confronted Robert about the incident because when I arrived at my university dorm, I called to him sobbing and told about everything. Uncle Greg is the typical cool single uncle and has always been protective of us cousins, so when he learned about it, he went on full Papa Bear mode for me. Robert was kind of mad that he was getting into our business. Mom told Robert that Uncle Greg, actually my cousins and I calls him Dada because he's really like our second parent, also has a say in this since he's family, but Robert wasn't happy about it. So yeah, that insinuated a big argument that almost led to Robert and Uncle Greg having a fist fight. They were already throwing unkind words to each other, and everyone was just emotional. When I learned about what happened, like I mentioned, I felt guilty and bad. So I sent Robert an email since he doesn't use Messenger. In the email, I told him that he should apologize to mom and make things right for the twins. I did not receive any response from him, but eventually, he and mom made up after a year. I was I'd happy because I really didn't want to ruin my mom's marriage. I love my mom so much, and I'd do anything for her. You might be wondering why my mom did not initiate divorce. Well, first of all, divorce is still illegal in my country. Second, annulment is extremely expensive, and even if we were kind of well off, my mom's a physical therapist and a teacher at a university, while Robert used to be a public accountant up until I was 16 and owns a commercial space. Their pockets would have hurt, and annulment takes a lot of time to process. Today, I reached out to them, and I told them that I wanted a proper conversation because this has been long overdue. I think we all need some closure. I do want to note that I have moved on, but forgive? I don't think so. It pisses me off that Robert thinks I can just move on, forgive, and forget. It's hard to think that this was the man I used to call Papa. What's even more sad is that I still see him as my Papa. The pain I felt that day and when I started calling him by his first name. I even wanted to major in accountancy because of him. He was my role model. There were a lot of moments where I just wanted to go back to that day and pretend I did not hear anything and let it slide, then maybe I'd still call him Papa. But I would be an idiot for thinking that because no matter what, the damage has already been done. So yeah, I am contemplating if I would update you guys on our talk tomorrow. I have texted my mom not to look over the comments here because some of you are just brutal. Sorry, I just don't want my mom to feel bad. P.S. I want to add that both my mom and Robert paid for my college tuition. I did not get any loans or anything. Student loans are uncommon in our country. Parents are always the ones paying. I'm actually grateful that Robert helped pay, but that still doesn't remove the pain. My husband has been really patient and supportive. Little trivia, we were classmates in high school. I was the talkative, vague girl in class, social butterfly, and he was one of those goofballs, and we actually fought a lot back then, and we eventually developed feelings for each other throughout freshman year. We were surprised that we went to the university. We were both catching up on each other's lives, and yeah, the rest was history. Oop mom, hello, everyone. I would like to thank everyone for your advice and comments. My daughter found and commented on my post, and we will be talking about this tomorrow. She had just messaged me earlier. I was feeling tired today and could not sleep, so I was able to write this. I also want to thank the people for calling me out. I know I'm not the best mother, but I try. But yes, I am an a-hole for tolerating him. I don't know what will happen in our talk tomorrow, but I do want everyone to have closure. I also want to add that my daughter and I do not have a strained relationship. She did not want me to walk down the aisle because then Robert would be pushing her to let him walk her too, since he thought we're a package.